Yeah, just launch the meeting.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this special police board meeting regarding our 25 budget. We will remember that this budget was a two-year budget presented to council and approved by the board in 2024. So this will be an update and basically an adoption of what was agreed to last year with some minor changes that the chief will certainly point out to us. So again, welcome. And Matthew, if we can have a roll call, please.
Chair Sizer.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lougheed. Member Forche. Member Lefebvre. Thank you. And Member Poland. Chair Cunningham, or Chief Cunningham, sorry.
Present.
Thank you. And Acting Deputy Chief Brunette. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, the Greater Sudbury Police Service strives to build positive and respectful relationships with the original inhabitants of this land, including First Nations peoples, Métis peoples, and Inuit. It is in this spirit that we as a service honor and acknowledge that we serve in this land that is cared for from time immemorial by the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We further acknowledge this land as the dish with one spoon and the Robinson Huron Treaty region. In peace, our first duty. So we will begin. Chief Cunningham will be making the presentation. And so whenever you're ready, Chief, we can begin.
Thank you, Chair Sizer. Do you prefer I remain here? Would you like me at the podium?
Whatever you're most comfortable with, and maybe go to
Your preference? The podium? No. I can go to the podium.
that way we get the media to have to move around.
Oh. Apologies for that. Good morning, everyone. Board members, good morning. As the chief just indicated, this is a maintenance year for us. We know that last year we came in at 8.4%, and this board worked diligently to bring us down to the 6.25%. Today, I will present a budget that has us sitting at 6.24%, and just highlight some pushes and pulls that our service has seen over the last year. As we know, in April of this year, we changed from the Police Services Act, the act that was our legislative body for many, many years, to the Community Safety and Policing Act. I guess I should do this. Is this me, Matthew? Sorry, I'm not moving ahead here. Gonna have to. Oh, pointed at you. Okay. Well, there we go. Technology. Again, our Community Safety and Policing Act that came into effect earlier this year. We'll see the now sections that apply to us when it comes to our budget and our municipal boards, and the requirement to provide adequate and effective policing here. Again, the 6 areas that bind us. Again, speaking to our regulations under the Act and approving this board, which is our operating and capital estimates, that will show separately the amounts that will be required to comply with this Act and the regulations. Some of the highlights of the accountability and oversight, as this board knows, we had an SIU incident just last night. We have the Office of the Independent Review, Special Investigations Unit, the Privacy Commission. So lots of accountability and oversight, and with that comes lots of legal fees, unfortunately. This is just a slide that we show annually, for the public as well, and for the board and our members. We know at the top here that we police a large geographic municipal area. And not only is this important for our community to recognize, because we go from as far as Kukigami up to Levack, is that all members paying taxes in this community want to see the police in their area, and it's extremely difficult. And that weighs on our members as well, because often we're not able to get out there and really do that proactive policing. We find ourselves doing more reactive policing than we ever have. Our shared commitment model, and next is our strategic plan. The priorities set out by this board. It's our 2023 to 2026 plan, and the plan came from highlights from our community consultation as well as our member consultation. So it really is driving us over the next few years and listing our priorities and how we're serving our community. Just a highlight here of our organizational chart, which is on our website. It's accessible anytime to the public, and it highlights our operations side as well as our police professional side, and all the divisions that we have in our organization. Something today I really want to highlight again is the pushes and pulls, our service delivery to our members, to our community via our members, and our calls for service, and that increase in the complexity of the calls that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Again, the CSPA, as I indicated, has really changed how we're delivering policing services, and some of the qualifications that our officers never had to have that they do have to have now. And one is general investigative techniques. It used to be a course that members would get if they wanted to go into an investigative role, and now it's mandated that everybody have this interviewing course or this investigative course. So again, training and development that we have to give our officers. 10 years ago, the chief of police wouldn't have stood here and spoke about drug recognition experts and standard field sobriety and carbine trained. All of this is training now that we have to provide to our officers. And with all that training comes additional equipment. So there are expenses that we've had to invest in. When we see here digital evidence management, this board has heard from us over the last year, especially our disclosure requirements and the body worn cameras that are coming out. Again, expenses that over the last 10 years we've seen increase drastically. Some of our key pressures, and we list here is our daily absences, some accommodations. We have members that we hired to be frontline police officers. Unfortunately, we're not able to deploy them in that capacity, and we don't have part-time policing. We don't have a supply teacher to come in that we call in the morning, or a part-time, police officer that can come and fill those vacancies. So we're seeing more now than ever having to backfill with overtime shifts. We have our contractual obligations under our collective agreements with annual leave and whatnot. When members go off on training, again, training has gone up substantially. We have to sometimes backfill those staffing minimums that are out on the patrol during evening hours. So again, those are some of our key pressures here. The presumptive legislation that we know came out several years ago. You'll see the WSIB. We have currently 14 sworn members off and 3 police professionals. Some statistics here on our calls for service. We have seen an increase in calls for service, but I'm going to leave this here for a few minutes and really ask everybody to have a look at this. 84% is non-criminal. And I'll say that in the opposite way. 16% is criminal. So 16% of our calls for service, the key, functions that we're supposed to be out there doing, we're no longer doing. Unfortunately, we're still in this post-pandemic kind of hangover, and we are that service that's 24/7, 365 that answers the phone, and we are going to a lot. And in subsequent slides, you're going to see the types of calls we're going to, the social disorder calls. We realize that we're assisting some of our emergency services, healthcare, EMS, because there are individuals that are less compliant, with our healthcare professionals, and we are required at those calls. But, we're going to continue to work with our community partners and look at areas in which we can work collaboratively, that it may not be the police responding to those types of calls, and that we can be focusing more on that proactive work. And again, looking at the high level of violent crime that we're seeing. And that's on our next slide here. We know our crime severity index. We've seen this one several times. You'll see here assault, criminal harassment. Those are can be IPV related. We know we have an increase in our IPV calls. So again, these are some of those calls, criminal calls, that we really want to be focusing on when we know that 84% are non-criminal. Assault peace officer, unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in this. We are extremely high when it comes to the province. We, in the last month, have 3 officers injured to the point that they're non-deployable out on the front line. They've had to, quote unquote, take a knee. We've got a broken hand. got a sprained wrist, we have an injured eye, but they're not able to go on the front lines. So they're doing office work, but again, might have to backfill in those areas because we're not able to deploy those officers. So again, we're seeing that increase here in Sudbury. Mental health calls, we have the mobile crisis, and we continue to work with our community partners who are also dealing with workforce shortages. We know that HSN, our wait times at HSN have gone up, and no fault to our partner at HSN, but it's a reality. And so instead of spending quick time at the hospital to drop off a mental health patient, we're there for hours, which again is not having our officers out in the community patrolling. And we, speak about the next page here, our opioid crisis. And some of these social disorder calls, and we say the trifecta, homelessness, mental health, addiction. We're seeing we know they're linked. We see that at the RMT table, the rapid mobilization table. Generally, when there's mental health or addiction, these individuals are homeless. And again, we're really responding to these social disorder calls. And we're going to continue to work with our community partners and look at means at dealing with these issues. Over 3,000 calls of unwanted persons. So here's our budget timelines. Here we are today presenting our budget to you, our board, our operating budget. Again, contractual obligations, benefit costs, legal agreements. So those legal agreements, we reported to the city from last year. We had about 125,000 increase between last year's approved budget to today. And those are some contractual obligations. We saw an increase in our records management system contract, as well as our towers that operate for our radio system. Some legal obligations, we saw an increase there. We've included inflation in this budget as well as last year. We hadn't previously, but we know, like anything, even our own personal lives, inflation. So our program chargebacks to the city, that's our rent that we pay to the city, our mailroom, some of that stuff. Our insurance increases by the provider, again, back to the city, who's our insurer, and the expansion of the 10 more officers. So that, as the board knows, over the last 3 years, 23, 24, 25, it's 10 officers per year. We hired our 10 for 24, and we're well on our way through our manager of human resources to hire our 10 for 2025. This is our grant funding. So luckily, our budget sits the way it does because we just get over $5 million offset through some grant funding, and you'll see the several grants that we are, on pace to get next year. And they're just listed there. If there's any questions, I can answer on those. So here is our budget allocations. Again, our fixed makes up the majority. You'll see on one of the slides, I think in 2 slides from now, an actual pie chart on it. But just the breakdown, that 98%, over 98% of our fixed costs, that's our contractual obligations, our salaries and benefits. Again, insurance, equipment, technology, fixed cost, again, that we can't control, those legal obligations. Our operating budget, so every year, and we'll see here shortly, our contribution to capital and reserves, we set up, reserve funds, knowing that we have cruisers to be replaced. We know we actually have a large vessel, one of our biggest boats that we know can only go out on Lake Wanapitei, that kind of thing. It's due to be replaced. We're looking at, through Acting Deputy Brunette, working with the manufacturer to extend that life. We know that. We also know with our violent crime being up, we're looking at, setting a capital plan for a rescue vehicle, an armored rescue vehicle. It is a vehicle that many police services are using. Start to build out those capital plans. So we need these capital reserves set aside. They're projects that we're planning in the future. As we know, some of our cruisers generally replace about 150,000 kilometers. These are run 24/7, 365. But through our fleet supervisor, we're extending life on those. So this capital plan, you'll see in a couple of slides, is set to 2027. That was our capital plan. But we're adjusting annually and looking at where we can save money. Our internal recoveries, operating costs, our revenues, again, mostly grants, and then our salary and benefits, and that makes up our 6.24% of our operating budget. Again, just a little visual on what I just explained. And then I'm just gonna, again, highlight some of our capital pressures. This board has heard from us many times, our facility requirements, whether we move to a new facility or not. The facility we are currently housed in is having some serious infrastructure issues. We're just over $500,000 to date this year on unforeseen issues that we've had take place in our building. We have a cell block area that needs to be replaced, that type of stuff. Again, fleet requirements, the expansion of technology, body-worn cameras. We continue to set money aside for that. The replacement, I think it's on the next page, of our Harris radio system. So our current 911 system, as you know, the police house the 911 system for fire. We take the 911 call and downstream to EMS. But that radio system, 10 years ago, we debt financed through the city and paid that back, but we have set money aside. So we're due to replace here in 2025. We're having discussions through Nathan Dokes and Andrea Savage, our two managers, with fire, with transit. Can we push it to 2026 with just a few upgrades, and speaking with Harris on that? But that money is set aside in a capital plan already, project plan. So we've put that money aside. Again, just some highlights here on some of those capital projects. And then here, the police building. So you'll see that we had been increasing it by $500 a year. You'll see that we have till 2026 and 2027. We just put in the 1650 that the board approved last year. It's because our capital plan is to 2027. So this capital forecast is today. That can change next year. The board, of course, can change 26, 27. We know that. But we just simply put the numbers across because our capital plan is till 2027. So again, this is the money we've been putting away for our building, our fleet projects, police capital projects. We've got to replace some of our technology infrastructure. So we've been putting that money away. CW, ALPR, which is the automatic license plate reader system, that money up front we got from the province. So it is something that in 4 years our members have learned to rely on, but we don't know if the province will then give us money. So we have to start to allocate money in order to keep that as technology and a resource that our members have, like I said, relied on. So we start to put money away for that. And then, of course, body-worn cameras, we have money allocated. But again, in order to keep that program continuing, we need to set further money aside. I spoke already about our communications infrastructure and replacing our Harris radio system. The NG 911 project, estimated to be a $3 million project. Thus far, we've received the majority through grant funding. We just submitted through Melissa LaRiviere and the finance team another grant application. We hope to be successful in that. However, we continue to put money into this project. We know that the cutoff date was March 2025 through the CRTC. And Nathan can correct me, we're not sure. We were supposed to flip the switch here in November to make our transition. We've been put off. I think that it was a lofty date of March 2025 by the province. And so we're just in a holding pattern now, but we're ready for that. But we continue just to set and allocate some money aside to meet that project deadline. So unless there's any questions, I'm happy to take some. But again, a maintenance year, we sit at 6.24, board approved last year at 6.25. And yeah, unless there's any questions, I'm happy to answer some.
Thank you, Chief Cunningham, for that presentation and for the upgrade to us. And yes, we will start with some questions from the board. Member Lougheed.
Light come on?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay. Great presentation, Chief. Thank you very much. As I mentioned in a previous meeting of our board, we've maintained the in fact, you've actually brought it down percentage, 6.24, which is what we're committed to this year. And I'm quite prepared to support the motion that's at the end of this document. And I see that on November 15th, our chair will be going to council to update council with regard to this presentation.
Thank you. Are there anything further? Member Lefebvre.
Yes, just on the capital forecast, just to clarify, on the police building, currently, what is the reserve that we have in place? Because I didn't see this in the presentation. I just want to make sure that it's,
Melissa, it's 7.3.
so 7.3, and now, so we're predicting an additional, if by the approving this budget, we're going to increase that 7.3 by 4.95, correct? Yep. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
On that note, again, for the public's iteration, while we put that money towards it's a new building, it becomes a facility maintenance fund almost, because we also, if there are unexpected, Chief Cunningham mentioned, up to date, we've had about $500,000 in unexpected expenses in building maintenance. That $500,000, which of course is not budgeted for, is drawn from that reserve. So it is important that we have that there, but hopefully we could get a couple of years where we didn't have to dip into it and increase our reserve.
Correct. Yeah, thank you.
Anything further? Seeing or hearing none, Matthew, we have a resolution.
That the board approves the 2025 operating budget in the amount of $83,494,284.97. And further, that the board approves the 2024 to 2027 police capital plan. And further, that the board recommends that city council accepts these budgets.
All those in favor? Go ahead, Member Lloyd.
That wasn't really the spirit of my motion. Are we committing ourselves to 26 and 27 by that motion?
Those are
With
the
the
second motions.
Capital.
Capital.
Yeah.
We're not talking about operating. We're just talking, we're just talking about operating for 2020.
So when Al goes to council, he's going to present.
Member Lloyd, or sorry, I can't hear you, Member Lefebvre, that's all.
All right. I'm just like trying to, through you, Chair.
Yeah.
Do this properly. Yeah, so the chair will be going to council to approve the 2025 operating budget.
That's right.
And then to also approve the 2024-27 police capital plan.
And that wasn't approved before. I'm sorry, Al, that was, Chief, that wasn't approved before? The forecast one?
I believe, Matthew, last year's capital plan was approved.
Each year, the capital plan is included as part of the motion. So we would have approved it last year, and I guess this is just a reapproval of the
Readoption.
Yes.
Changes.
Yeah.
It was the same capital plan that we put through last year. I just removed the 2024. It's the same amounts that we had put through in the purpose last year.
So technically, I guess it was approved last year, Member Lougheed, and,
You seem to like to go back on things, but okay,
Yeah.
keep it in the motion, that's fine.
okay. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. That was great. Is there any new business anybody would like to discuss? Any further questions? I have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay.
That was-